people who are still finishing up their meal and want us to repeat everything. So I'd say, let me know if it's time to go, okay?
Ready whenever you are.
Let's see. Let's say 1, 2, 3, go. Ready? Good. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Vercammen. I'm an attorney in nearby Edison, New Jersey, and we're going to be talking for about 35, 40 minutes on wills, power of attorney, and living wills. So, what they say, I hit the stopwatch. So if I keep going, then they say shut up. No, actually, don't keep going. Good. All right. So a lot of times, though, people says, Kenny, why do I even need to have a will? Doesn't everything go to my spouse if I pass away? It goes, well, sometimes yes, sometimes no, if you have children from a prior relationship, but that's not really doing planning because the other person's eventually going to pass away. The whole idea is if you had a house and you knew there was a leak in the basement, wouldn't you ignore it? It goes, you know what, that's going to be my kid's problem down the road. I don't really care. You try to get it fixed. So by having some planning, having a will, power of attorney, living will, you're making it easier for your family, and you're giving less stress. Because if the surrogate has lectured with us before, people don't have either a will or they did a cheap online form and they didn't sign it right or do it right. Then they got to go through this process called the administration intestacy. And that means everyone who's entitled to inherit has to sign a renunciation saying, I don't want to be the administrator. I agree that this person could be the administrator. Well, that's kind of good in theory, but each one got to sign in front of a notary, you got to pay a fee. But what we usually find is that there's one person that's the troublemaker that goes, no, I'm not going to sign. I want to do it. That means they got to spend money going in front of a Superior Court judge and spending $3-4 grand with this called order show cause, a complaint to have someone appointed as the administrator. And certainly the cost for a will is $400-500, not this $3,000 plus another $10,000 worth of stress. Also, if there's no will, the person who becomes the administrator has to take out a thing called the surety bond, another grand or so. So when loved ones are grieving, there should be one more thing to stress them out. You want it to be as even as possible and as easy as possible. And the other thing we see, when documents are not done right or not done at all, it often causes fights or lawsuits amongst family. So who in this room says, man, I want to open up the bee's nest when I go? No, it's the whole idea is trying to make it easy for the family. So think about, doing the will is pretty easy. I was talking to someone today, he goes, hey, we only got 4 questions. Who's executive 1, who's executive 2, who gets your stuff, who doesn't get your stuff? Easy enough, right? Believe it or not, New Jersey did away with some taxes. They did away with the New Jersey estate tax. 10 years ago, all the money over $675,000 was a big tax and a big long form to fill out. They did away with that. However, there's a federal estate tax. So people that are taking notes better write this down. It's for you people that have more than $13 million, actually. I've never been in a program where someone goes, I'm close to that. I goes, I'm close to that. I'm just 2 zeros off. There was a study that they said for people who win the big lotteries, and 100% of the time something happens. They gain weight because you get lazy and sloppy, you eat more, and you're not concerned about stuff because you got all this money. Let's see. So you have your stuff done right. So think about it. When you want to get your stuff, if there's anyone who's under, let's say 21 years old, typically you want to have a clause that says they're not getting the money when they're 18. How many 18-year-olds have done anything wise with money? 0. I mean, I went to high school up the street from here, and there was a guy on our track team that he inherited $75,000 in 1978 money. By the time he was 21, didn't have it all, and eventually went to jail for being a pirate. because from running out of money, they stole a yacht and they were going to the Caribbean to, run drugs and they got boarded for being pirates. So also the surrogate says, gotta beware of online forms because, the surrogate, it's not me saying, the surrogate always says, those are where we have all the problems because it's not signed right or, people just believe that just simply because it says one size fits all doesn't, one size does not fit all. Think about shoes. Let's see, if they're too small, they hurt. All right, so logistically, one of the things we kind of learned right before COVID was, why were we making people come into the office and filling out forms by pen when they had this new thing they invented called email? And we could email the questionnaire because, everyone says, oh, I'd like to make an appointment to come in. I'd like to make an appointment to come in. I go to Mr. Shaw, I know you're married. Are you disowning your wife? No, you want everything to go to her, right? Yeah. Okay, I see you got three kids, right? Yeah. He goes, are you disowning any of your kids? You want to treat everything equal? I goes, I want everything equal. He goes, Mr. Shaw, I'm saving a trip. You don't make me to take a day off of work. I know what you need. Okay? So we actually have a one-page questionnaire for someone who goes, oh, the other one is much more complicated. So logistically though, it's really saying, we email out the questionnaire, someone types it up. Some of the seniors claim that they don't have email. We know they do. But sometimes they say, listen, I'm not really good with the internet. Listen, no problem. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna call that grandkid that lives like 2 towns over and say, listen, I need you to come over for about 15 minutes and help me type this thing up. Anytime in the next 3 weeks. If that grandkid says, nah, Grandma, I'm too busy to help you out. No problem. When you do the will, you make sure there's a clause that says, I leave nothing to this one because I asked her to help me for 15 minutes. And she said, forget it, Grandma, I'm not going to help you out. Let's see. And remember, it's your right to do with your stuff what you want. The only thing you can't do is leave a spouse penniless. Other than that, you want to sneak off and do a new will and say, I'm going to leave it all to the Yellow Dog Society. All right, the dogs get it. I'd say, and remember, and it's your right to do what you want. Okay, so I mentioned in your will, you're going to have an executor 1 and executor 2. You don't want to have joint executors because they could be twins living together, but you're giving them more work. That means that 2 people got to sign every check. 2 people got to go to surrogate. 2 people got to go to a closing, etc. The idea is doing less work, not more. Believe it or not, New Jersey's the probate easiest state. So, sometimes I'll tell people, why are you making it more complicated? You don't need to do this. Okay? Now, that's why there's one steering wheel, there's one captain of ship. It's best to have an executive 1 and an executive 2. Sometimes the clients go, and this is one of my close brethren from the Edison Elks. Okay, after my wife, I got 2 daughters. I can't pick one over the other. He goes, hey, no problem. We're gonna write down their names on a piece of paper, and we're gonna turn it over, and we're gonna switch it, and then I'll pick one. And then after that, you can say to them, hey, you know how you got picked over the other one? Because Kenny closed his eyes and twirled around the papers, and that's how it was. So now, we don't ask a lot of questions dealing with assets because I don't want to know what I need to know, unless you got more than $13 million, right? Let's see, combined, does this group have $13 million? Probably, but okay. So we do ask. So where's your real estate in New Jersey? Where's your real estate somewhere else? Other than that, I don't want to know your bank because it doesn't go in the will. Clients goes, you didn't list any of my assets. It goes, oh, I just simply need to know the day you're going to die and when you own that day. He goes, I don't know that. I goes, exactly. That's why whatever you have is going to the people you list. So basically it's who gets stuff, and if anyone passes, who gets their share. After that, if that person passes, so that there's no questions down the road, because if it's unclear, then that means you gotta spend money and go in front of a Superior Court judge. Our Superior Court judges are great people, but they work very hard, and why spend all that money? All right, and not that complicated, right? Okay, that's all you need to know. Now, some people have though what's called specific bequests. So any of you ladies in the room have jewelry? Probably, right? Okay. Do you want your jewelry to go to maybe one of the ladies in the family that can appreciate it, or to your son that's gonna go to Cash for Gold and goes, what do you give me for this junk? You know, but it was great. It was good. Grandma's engagement ring. Cash for Gold. What do you give me for this junk? Sometimes I'm talking to someone who's like, and they're going over specific requests. And I goes, listen, let me ask you a question. Have you worn these items in the past 5 years? No. Are you gonna wear them in the next 5 years? No. Why just give it to them now? You know, first of all, you've given it to them. Okay. They'll be nicer to you when you see them again. And whenever you see them, they'll be probably wearing. Goes, look, Grandma, hey, I'm wearing your ring. I'll tell you. Then after that, they put it back in the box, send it to Cash for Gold. So those are what's called specific bequests. Sometimes, like these guys have they think that their old baseball cards are worth something. They're really not. But it was like, oh, I want to leave this to this person. Some people leave money to charities, nonprofits, etc. It's better to give an amount than a percentage. If it's a percentage, the Attorney General's office not only has to be notified, but it drags out for another year for them to audit the estate. But if you just say, listen, I'm leaving this $5,000 to this charity, but if my estate's under X amount, then it doesn't go in. That's it. Okay, now, your will takes care of your assets that don't have a beneficiary. For a lot of people, most of your assets now already have a beneficiary. So for married people, anyone married like me, I'd say, but if you have a house and typically it's own husband and wife, even if your will says it doesn't go to my no good spouse, if you pass, it goes to the spouse because you know, that's how it is. Okay. Bank accounts, if they're POD, payable upon death, joint tenancy, automatically goes there. The will doesn't change it. Other assets passed by contract, 401k, IRA, life insurance, annuity, anything has a direct beneficiary. The will does not change that. So after the will is done, let's see, the original will is yours. It's not filed with the county until you pass. You'll keep the original. But so it's also a good idea. You want to make sure Executor 1, Executor 2 know where the original's at. Don't put it in a safe deposit box because you can't get to those things easy. But also make copies of other assets that have a direct beneficiary, even though they don't pass under the will. You put it in the will folder. That way it makes it easy for those people. All right. We talked about specific bequests. So sometimes we have what's called the reverse specific bequest. I leave nothing to this person. You don't leave them $1, you don't put a reason, nothing to them. Let's see. Last year, one of the clients says, do I have to treat all my kids equal? He goes, you do whatever you want. What's your concern? She goes, well, one of my sons lives on the West Coast and we don't see much of him. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Did he call you up or send you a card at Christmas, your birthday, or Mother's Day? She goes, no. Why would he give that bum anything? But here's a call you on like your birthday, your mother. He goes, and besides, that person, the troublemaker, is gonna be the biggest pain because the day after you pass, that person's gonna be, where's my money? I'm entitled to money. Can someone contest the will? Yeah, people can contest. It costs, number one, it costs money. But when we get calls from someone that says, oh, I didn't get what I'm entitled to under the will, I goes, okay, the judge can ask you 3 questions. How many times did you visit your dad in the past 2 years? I didn't, we had a falling out. Okay, how many times did you call him up to say, listen, Dad, I'm sorry for our argument and I'd like to get back? We had a falling out. Okay, how about a letter? He goes, well, don't spend your money. The judge, this one guy was hired as a contest the will. And then the other side produced a letter he sent to his mom saying, "You mean nothing to me." I don't know. I mean, is this your handwriting? Yeah, it was, I should have said that. Yeah, you should have. We don't, sometimes we don't give money to people outright, not because we don't like them, but because they could be like too immature to hold money. They could be have substance abuse issues. People that have special needs kids, it's usually smart to know, hey, I got to set up some kind of special needs trust or something like that. But it's more if someone has the wayward kid. On the other hand, it's your right to do with your money what you want. So a lady, her husband passed away. She goes, listen, I want to leave 90% to this daughter and 5% to the other two. I goes, okay, what's your reason? She goes, the oldest one is married to Dr. Rosenberg, the plastic surgeon. Their second house on LBI is worth $2 million. She don't need the money. Let's say, yeah, if she got $100,000, she'd buy a second $100,000 necklace. The other one, yeah, her and her husband did okay. The third one, well, her husband was the bum and never paid child support, never paid account, so she needs it more. I love all my kids equally, put that in the will, but this one needs it more. Goes, hey, whatever you want. We don't want, but sometimes we got to protect people from their other because if you let a 20-year-old get money, they're going to go to Maloof and say, hey, you got any $100,000 cars? I got a $100,000 check. And Maloof's going to say, we got one left. Better jump on it right away. Right? When there's minor kids, you want to have a clause that says, okay, who's going to be guardian number one, guardian number two? Sometimes the clients say, well, I don't have anyone in this country. He goes, they don't got to live in the country. They just got to be a human over the age of 18. But it's better to pick someone goes, I don't have anyone in the US. It's better to pick someone that nobody at all, because instead of all white guy determines who's going to get custody. So people, with the children, I can't decide that. He goes, it's pretty easy. Let me help you out. If you were locked in that room for next week, who do you want to watch your kids? Or nobody, I guess my mom, but she's getting older. Well, that's the best choice now. You can always update your will down the road, but it's better to have someone than nobody. If you're writing stuff down, make sure you have a self-proving will, because that was an update under law. The old way of doing wills, the person signs, two witnesses, but then there had to be an attorney or notary. I'm sorry. Then you had to find one of the witnesses. Self-proving will, person signs, and two witnesses, then the attorney or notary, then the person has signed a second time, the witness has signed a second time, the attorney or notary signs a second time. This way you don't got to locate any of the witnesses. I know a law office in Carteret. They intentionally didn't do self-proving wills so they would get the estate down the road. At one time I said to, and the guy was a friend of mine. I go, hey, Willie, you guys are going to get in trouble someday not doing it. So the law changed, well, if someone wants a self-proving will, we'll do it for them. I go to him, I goes, no one in Carteret knows what a self-proving will is. Half the attorneys don't know what a self-proving will is. I do wills for attorneys. I'd say, why? I'd say, because he goes, Kenny, this is what you do. And he goes, if it's something that on their expertise, then I send it to them. We got a list. Someone called, I remember when I used to do personal injury stuff and then I stopped doing it. He goes, I want you to do it. No, you don't want me to do it. It's all about getting money. Hire these guys. Now, we put a clause in the will if there's anyone under 21 that don't get the money outright, it gets held. People with minor kids, we usually set up what's called the testamentary trust within the will. They get some money when they're 22, some when they're 25, the balance when they're 30. But as much money as is needed can be expelled for health, education, maintenance, support. This way, a couple of good things, it's protected. Sometimes in second marriage situations, what we do is, hey, we said it was testamentary trust to a spouse. Instead of spouse number two getting all the money outright, money's put into fund for their support. But that way it's protected from Medicaid, and it's also protected from their third husband. And we go, oh, there's not gonna be another one. Oh, I'd say, well, you weren't planning on having a second one either. It's kind of like when I used to do a lot of municipal court criminal stuff. After the case is over, we walk over to the violations window, and I would go, now listen, call me when you get your next one. And they would say, well, there's not gonna be a next one. No, you weren't planning the first one either. Okay, get your stuff done. I'd say, don't wait till the spring, don't wait till the wet, get it done. What are you putting it off for? I'd say, people plan on going vacations. If you had a week off, then you knew like 2 months in advance, you wouldn't wait till like Friday afternoon. It goes, okay, where should I go? Hey, do some planning. So, and don't be a Carl, okay? What's a Carl? Who's a Carl? So Carl was this retired engineer, and wanted to have a will done. So I looked at and he had some assets, and I would recommend doing this, this, and this. He goes, well, I like to read up on it. You know, these engineer guys that they would get a new car and they have to read the whole book. When you used to get those computers 10 years ago, and the book would be about this thick, and the engineer would be reading the whole thing and like making notes. I mean, my father's a retired engineer. But I looked at his he still had his notebooks from college when he went to NGIT. He goes, I'm not doing this. And then my kids looked at my old books and they goes, hey, I'm not doing this. Anyway, so Carl goes, I want to read. Carl, you don't need to read anything. Listen, I already read for you. Went to law school, passed the bar, I go to seminars. I give the seminars, I wrote a book, and you don't need to read anything. I want to read on this. Carl, when I had knee surgery, I read nothing at all about knee surgery. Doctor, have you done this before? Yes, I've done this before. Okay, good. I wants to read. Okay, fine. 2 years later, his daughter calls. Do I have Carl's will? They can't find it. He want to read, and it was cheap, and didn't want to get the stuff done. So don't be a Carl. Okay. I'd say next. You don't need to be ripped off by having a revocable trust in New Jersey. I love making money. A revocable trust usually costs between $3 and $6 grand a piece. My mother-in-law used to call me up every other year. I want to come in and get a trust done, revocable trust. I would say, were you watching Susie Orman on TV? And she says, oh yeah. She goes, Susie Orman is exactly right if you live in New York, California, Florida, where the probate process is very, very, very complicated. But New Jersey probate costs $180, and most of the states are done in a couple months after. So I ask people, why do you want to spend $6,000? And even some people have what's called legal plans through their employer. So you work for a big company like Wakefern or Merck or J&J, and they have the MetLife legal plan, ARAG legal plan, legalese, and they pay for doing the documents. So it doesn't cost them any money, but I still say, I make money doing it, but you don't need this, even though it doesn't cost you money. Because probate insurance. So a revocable trust, say, it doesn't protect assets for a nursing home. It doesn't protect assets from taxes. People goes, oh, I was told we should avoid probate. Probate's the devil. Probate's easy. Probate costs $190. And there was an attorney that was like scaring people into getting revocable trust done until that attorney was censured by the Supreme Court saying, you're lying to people. Let's say, when I was in grammar school and those nuns were smacking me in the head for all the bad stuff I did, they also smacked into me though, in a way, to try to be honest and fair with people. So whenever someone says, I want to get a trust, it's not just doing a trust, it's that all the assets are then retitled and owned by. If you have real estate though in another state, it is a very, very good idea to have a revocable trust own it. And if you have real estate in Florida, New York, California, and don't have it owned by a revocable trust, then you're screwing your family. Now, there's another kind of trust, an irrevocable trust. Because people that they goes, how can I protect my assets in the event I have to go into nursing home? Well, if that's what you really want to do, I have colleagues that do it. I'd say, the irrevocable trust, you can't be the trustee. You're not in charge. It's owned by this trust. You can never undo it. And the people that do it usually charge $12,000 to $15,000 to do all the work. Now, sometimes you gotta think, well, the cost of a nursing home is $15,000 a month. So if you save 1 month a nursing home, but people, sometimes it's the daughter's bringing in mom, and mom says, daughter goes, mom wants to protect her estate. And he goes, I could smell. The daughter's really wants to protect her inheritance. First thing he said to her, he goes, why do you pay for long-term care insurance for your mom? Oh, I don't spend any money. And then he asked me, what would I do? I goes, well, I'm the wrong person to ask. Listen, I worked hard my whole life. I'd say, for the guys here who are over 65, you remember hustling to make money because your father or parents weren't giving you $50 at the beginning of the week and goes, hey, go have a party now. We were shoveling snow. I was a newspaper boy delivering weather that was much worse than tonight. Oh, if the weather was like this, it's fine. Sunday home news around Christmas time. Each one weighed about 2-3 pounds. The bicycle's tilted. I had to go back and get more. Oh, we also got, because of the inserts, we got an extra penny. And again, being honest, I like the other guys, I never threw them in the sewer like some of the other guys. So anyway, so client goes, well, what would I do? I go, I'm not transferring my assets to an irrevocable trust or my kids. I'd say, wait, why should my son, Dr. Brendan, have a bigger boat so I go into the smelly nursing home? No, I want to go to the most expensive nursing home that exists. If I am that ill and sick that I can't walk to the bathroom or feed myself for the last days, weeks, whatever, I want to be in as best comfort as possible. I'd say, maybe I can have some extra money where the nurse gets one of those like droppers and like gives me Yingling. So, if someone wants to do it, I give them the names of people. Okay, your original will, you're going to put your original will where the executor number one can get to it. Let them know where it's at. It's no big secret. Unless, here's the unless. Let's say you're writing someone out. Then you want to hide it where they can't find it. Because usually the troublemaker is the one that I had to break into the house to make sure that it was safe. The door's locked and then they're ruffling through the papers and they go and find, son of a bitch, I'm not getting my money. What will? So, okay, get your will done. By the way, our office, we charge a consult fee but if anyone I have a little evaluation thing there before you leave. If you take out, if you put your name down, your email address, then you get a free consult. Everyone else got to pay. But and it's within 30 days. Don't call us in 6 months and say, okay, I want to come in for the consult now. I go, wait, so you didn't listen to the seminar? It said, get your stuff done. Get it done. And get it signed. We were with the gentleman today. We did mom's will back in April. They had the copy. They never had to sign it. I goes, well, that's not worth anything. So get it done. Okay, next, let's talk about the power of attorney, okay? Your will takes care of your assets if you pass away. What the power of attorney is, you're giving the power to someone who you trust to help you out. You're not giving up your rights. You can revoke the power of attorney as long as you're competent, but you're having it there just in case. I'd say, the power of attorney is not just for old people in walkers like my dad. It's for young, spry people like everyone else here, because Who can predict that you're not driving down the road and some dumb kid who's looking at their phone and going, oh my God, whatever, is gonna, and all of a sudden your arm's broken. Let's say, I remember the time when I'm biking down the shore because I'm training for a triathlon and so then I was gonna bike to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I went to college. And I wasn't planning on going over the handlebars and crashing on the road and breaking my collarbone, but I did. And then, I'm going, good thing I had that power of attorney. That's a good thing I also crawled off the road as fast as I could because you got like truck, saying the truck guy's looking at it and not looking at some, dumb guy on a bicycle that, so now, some of the banks were giving people a hard time in the financial institutions. Oh, there's power of attorney, I don't know, it's not in our form. So the New Jersey legislature came down with a law that says if it made reference to New Jersey statute, it did work here, then they gotta honor it. But it had to make reference to Section 2 Appeal 1991, C 95, C 46:2B-11, and those free or cheap things you find online don't happen. So, now, a will is good forever. If you do a will now, and sometimes I say to the clients, come back and see me in like 25 years. I said that to an 85-year-old guy. Come back and see me in 25 years. But again, it's valid for another 25. It's valid forever. And even if you go to another state, it's still valid. But power of attorney, though, each state has its own rules. So if you move to another state, I say, listen, go get a new one done. Let's see. It's also a good idea to re-sign the power of attorney every 5 years, because this way the financial place doesn't give you a hard time. Because, all right, this is 18 years old. So, get the new one done. Power of attorney is effective either right away or only upon disability. If it's effective right away, it's called durable power of attorney, and stays in effect even if you become disabled. Springing power of attorney only springs into effect if you become disabled and get a note or certification from the doctor. So, actually my client Fred goes, I gave him some stuff to read. Sometimes it's better not to give people stuff to read because it'll confuse them more. But he goes, Kenny, I don't know. He goes, I'm a carpenter. I work with my hands. I don't understand this legal stuff. Please explain to me in carpenter language. Okay. If it's effective right away, you picked your son as your agent. That means your son can steal all your money right away and go to Cuba and live great. If it's effective only upon disability, he needs to get a note from a doctor before he steals all your money. Knowing that, you trust your son. That's why I trust my son in my life. Good. Make it effective right away. Next, last document we're going to talk about is the Living Will Advance Directive. Okay? Now, your will takes care of your assets if you pass. Think of the power of attorney kind of as the financial thing. Okay? What your the living will, that's the document where you're giving instructions to hospitals and doctors that, listen, if I'm in a coma, irreversible terminal condition, I don't want to be on feeding tubes and life support, etc. So it's really not a document, it's really a document for your family, not for you, because you're out of it. As long as you can talk, you're the captain of the ship. But the whole idea is not putting the family through the trauma. And you also pick a one person that the doctors legally can talk to under the HIPAA laws. I remember for the people, for the locals, I remember I had a client that all of a sudden she's at Muhlenberg Hospital. And, she didn't have a living will. I was the power of attorney, but she didn't have it. And the doctor says to me, okay, yeah, should we remove life support? Geez, doctor, I feel bad. I wish you would have had the living will. He goes, I feel bad. I mean, and you know the right decision for someone who's 92 years old, that's not going to open up their eyes again. But you hate to be the one to say, yeah, doctor, go ahead, go turn off the switch. I mean, I couldn't even do it for my first dog, when the dog was like, we're at the vet and it's going to be the last day. And I said to my wife, listen, you got to go in because otherwise I'm bringing the dog back home again. So the idea is that you're picking someone. So in the living will advance directive, 95% of people say, listen, if I can't talk, I'm not gonna get that. I don't wanna have feeding tubes, etc. Most people say, I don't wanna have any artificial machines, etc. And that way it's there. Now you're picking a number one and a number two. Part of the reason for having someone is that the doctor says someone to talk to legally. And the important thing on having, one of the other important things on having a living will, we find a lot of times in the families that there's the one child that was the most helpful person. And then there was the other one that was not as helpful, let's say. But then all of a sudden it's in a hospital, and the one that was not helpful at all of a sudden they come into the hospital room and he goes, okay, I'm in charge now, and this is what we're gonna do. And the answer is, no, you're not in charge, because when mom or dad prepared this, like, say, this is the captain, I'm the captain of the ship, and this is number two, and you're lucky we even have you here, because where were you? Oh, this is Kenny, you gotta go faster, your 35 minutes is up. And some people don't have someone different on the living will that as their executive. They could be someone that is more familiar with medicines or things like that. And different. Yes. I remember when I first got married. You remember how you're all lovey-dovey when you're first married and everything is great. So my wife and I are redoing our documents. And we're going over the living will. She goes, oh, I could never let them remove life support for you. He goes, okay, fine. I'm not gonna have you, I'm gonna have my dad, because he's logical like Mr. Spot. He goes, oh, that's what came on, it's okay. I used to say if I couldn't run every day, I wanted to be put down like they do the racehorses that break their legs. And then the first time I'm on crutches, where I hadn't missed a day running in 15 years and 11 months, he goes, oh, wait, don't put me down yet. I'm getting better. Anyway, so once my kids were in their 20s, we're redoing the documents. My wife goes, so wait a minute. If you die, I get $800,000 tax-free and I never have to work again. She's like, well, why don't we put you down now? Let's remove life support. That's my first living will, by the way, I insisted that I get a feeding tube. And my colleague goes, why? He goes, have you ever been in high school wrestling where you weren't allowed to eat for a day or two and you were always hungry? Well, that was me wrestling 101 and 108. And now I goes, well, okay, I can lose a couple pounds, so we don't need to feed tubes. So this is not a legal document. I got 90 seconds left before my colleague Dan Fabrizio talks about some common financial planning mistakes. And then he's gonna answer some questions, because believe it or not, I have court in 13 seconds. That's it, I got it. Okay, so you want to do what's called a letter of instruction. It's not a legal document. You're kind of helping out your executors, saying, this is what my stuff is. There's no hidden golden Kruger eggs. Okay, New Jersey probate is relatively easy. Client last week, said, wow, how is my if we're gone, how's my daughter gonna do it? And he goes, well, they pick up the phone, they call my office, and I'll help you out. I'd say, our probate judge is retired on recall, and we were talking one day, because, we were in Zoom, and the other attorney, dropped off, thinking, I guess he dropped his, phone in the toilet or whatever, but, so we can't talk about the case, but he goes, we're talking about retirement, and he's working, he's 77, whatever. He goes, Kenny, what about you? I goes, I'm working 25 more years. He goes, 25? I goes, listen, if I'm just dealing with nice people doing wills and probate and stuff, I'm not being aggravated. But one of the things I'm not gonna do anymore is drive on a Thursday night to the Wanahue Municipal Court 5 or 6 times and be driving home at 9:45 at night saying, this is bringing me to an earlier grave. So I just want to spend my time with nice people. All right, I wish I could hang out. I don't know how, I can't answer any questions because I got court.
I might be able to.
So, I'm just a volunteer, but Dan's gonna come up, and if I get back, I get back, but you'll see a guy that looks like me, okay?
It won't be me. And I'm not Ken. I'm Dan. Ken hopefully will come back. My name's Dan Fabrizio. I'm a financial advisor with New York Life, Life Securities, and I'm here to talk about common retirement mistakes, either as you're going into retirement or when you're in retirement. So I'm also licensed in the state of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. But just some common things to keep in mind. And it's 7 items. Number 1, not planning with your retirement with your life expectancies in mind. Okay, what does that mean? How long am I gonna live? We don't know. We don't have an expiration date, we don't know. But between medical advances 30 years ago, your life expectancy might have been a couple of years younger. So keep in mind that the actuary estimates may not necessarily be right. Now, you might be thinking about, well, my grandparents and my parents lived to 95 and 97. Well, that's a good barometer. So keep in mind your life expectancy, because when you're retired and you have a certain amount of money to live, you kind of need to put that together and say, all right, I have this, I may live to this, and what are my expenses, and how am I gonna make that money last? Remember, Social Security is not gonna be around. You can't live just on Social Security, I should say. Okay, so that's just one thing to keep in mind. Number 2, not being smart about claiming Social Security. Social Security's been around for a while, and I think for the most part, you're either 65 or 67 when you're the official vested for Social Security. Some people say, I don't think it's gonna be around that long, and at age 62, they want their first check. Keep in mind, when you take Social Security earlier than 65 or 67, depending which year you're born, you're gonna get a smaller check for the rest of your life, okay? When you become of age for Social Security, when you're fully vested, they give you a check. That check's gonna be for the rest of your life. And if you're lucky, there's cost of living increases that kind of go with that. But if you have the financial resources and you have some longevity left in you, maybe you want to work a little bit longer, if you take Social Security at the last age of 70, that check's gonna be 38% more for the rest of your life. So just keep that in mind, and maybe this is more so to the younger people that still might be working out there. If you enjoy doing what you're doing, you don't necessarily have to quit when a certain age in time. Again, you work because you enjoy working, or you have to work. But just keep those things in mind about Social Security. I ran into people that didn't realize that you're gonna get more money if you wait a couple more years. Here are the stats. At 62%, at age 62, you're losing out on 26% of your normal Social Security check, okay? After age 66, you get 8% more a year. At 70 as a maximum, you're getting 76% more than if you took it at age 62, okay? So just some statistics to think about. Number 3, taking a lump sum from a pension can lead some to expensive mistakes. If you are eligible to get a pension from your company, and defined pensions are kind of going away unless you're a public employee, but if some companies try to give you a lump sum and just added a pension system, they would rather just give you a lump sum and you walk away, and that's one less person they gotta write checks for the next 20 years. If you're gonna get a pension, that's great, go that route. If you have a lump sum, say a 401k, 403b, one of these retirement accounts, you can create a pension out of that by maybe putting into an income annuity, piece of it, and you just get a check for the rest of your life, kind of like to supplement your Social Security. But if you do get a lump sum, and I did have a client that was age 80 when he retired from United Airlines. He started with Continental, never put into it, worked for like so many 30 years or so, and then he goes, I'm gonna retire. And he just worked in the airport. It was not too big. And he was 80 years old, but he was very feisty 80 years old. They gave him a lump sum check. And he goes, well, how long is this going to last? What do I do? And this and that. He panicked. He didn't know what to do. He was afraid he was going to run out of money. I was able to put together an income annuity for him that just gave him a check for the rest of his life. Based off your gender and your age, the older you are when you do it, the bigger the check you're going to get. But you can never outlive it. Okay, you keep living, they'll just keep paying you a check, even if it's more money than what you put into it. Okay, so an income annuity, there's no fees to it. It's just structuring money to you so you can live your life normally. All right. Number 4, and I've seen this happen not too long ago, putting too much risk in your investments. For those of you that have brokerage accounts, 401ks, 403bs, 2022 was a horrible year. Market was down 22%. My neighbor, he was 64 years old. He had $1 million in his 401k. The guy worked for, 35 years or so. But he goes, I'm going to retire next year. Well, after 2022, it went from $1 million to 750,000, and he was pretty upset. He's like, I just lost $250,000. That's part of my life. And, as someone who's kind of relying on that, it's a little nerve-wracking, okay? Luckily, last year the market came back, but I actually work with products that don't have fees and structure it to go up. And if the market goes down, you stay flat. So it's a way to protect your money. It pegs against the market. You're not in the market, so you don't have the volatility and watching your money going up and down. But if the market's up, you get a flat rate. I think it's about 6.5%, 7%. But it's a safe way to park your money as you're getting closer to retirement, so you have some downside protection. Just something to think about. But if you want to be active with your 401k, the risk is your stocks, okay? Stocks are going to go up and down, depending how the economy's going, all right? As you get closer to retirement, you want to be less in stocks, maybe a little bit more in bonds and money markets, okay? You're not going to get the same big increase as you did maybe 20, 30 years ago, but it's about safety and just being careful as you get ready to go into your retirement account, is set to go into retirement mode. Number 5, buying life insurance as an employee benefit. That's great. We work for a company and they say, all right, you got life insurance automatically. It could be a certain dollar amount, $30,000, $40,000. They're going to pay for it. It might be 1 or 2 times your salary. I know I worked at a bank a long time ago. My background is I worked with Wall Street banks for 20 years. That's great. You give it 1, 2 times your salary, you're making a nice salary. You're like, wow, that's great. It's only costing me $1.50 per paycheck. But remember, once you leave that company, whether you're terminated, laid off, or you retire, that disappears. You no longer have life insurance. Some things to think about is you should get some kind of small life insurance outside of your work life insurance to kind of protect your assets, your family, and things like that in cases of that. But there are still ways to get life insurance that are somewhat affordable when you're in your 50s and 60s. Okay, so it's not do or die. It's just like doing a will. You have to do something. Sit down, talk about it. There are options and there's ways. If you keep living, that life insurance gets bigger and the price stays the same. Okay, so just keep that in mind because it's about protecting your family and your assets, which is pretty much what a will does. Number 6, focus on an assets over income. Most of our lives, we're working and saving for retirement. And you're doing that 20, 30, maybe 40 years. Then all of a sudden you retire, you're like, all right, well, now I got to worry about spending that money. How am I going to make that last for the remainder of my life? And how many years is that going to be? We don't know. So should I draw 4% a year out of my retirement account? 5%? You need to put all your ducks in order, okay? Hopefully when you get into retirement, your expenses are less. Maybe you don't have much left in your mortgage, maybe you don't have a mortgage, but you need to put your expenses in order to know that what a financial planner can sit down with you and saying, this is what you have, this is what you need. Do you have anything else out there? Do you need to liquidate anything? Sitting down with a financial planner can help you, can give you a little comfort in knowing that everything's in order now and you can enjoy retirement comfortably. And the last thing, bank CDs. we all probably have bank accounts, and banks love us, particularly when you have an account for many, many years. Banks, when you have a large sum of money, whether it's in a bank IRA or a savings account, banks always want you to keep that money there or put it into a CD. Don't do this, don't do that. You do it right here. And for the most part, if you have a relationship with the bank, you may do that. But there are other alternatives that could be better than a bank CD. It's called a fixed deferred annuity. How is it better? Number one, a fixed deferred annuity is going to be 3 years. So if you're going to park money in your bank CD for 3 years, right now bankrate.com is showing 2%, when the insurance companies have about between 4 and 5% for the same 3-year longevity. Okay, so you can make more money. Number two, a fixed deferred annuity, your interest that you're earning is tax deferred. Unlike a bank CD, you're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year on the interest you earn. You can't use that interest because it's locked up in a bank CD, but you got to pay taxes on it. That's not good. With a fixed deferred annuity, you're accumulating the interest and there's no 1099. It's all tax deferred, and as long as it stays in the annuity, you're never going to get a 1099. So there are options out there. Oh, and here's the other thing. You have liquidity with an annuity. You can take out up to 10% a year without any penalty. With a bank CD, if you want to take out money, boom, they're going to take 10% and you're going to break the contract and they give you your money back minus 10%. So there are some other alternatives out there just to keep in mind. I have a client who parked some money into a bank CD and into an annuity, and the interest rates were really good back in November, December. They're starting to come down a little bit now, but she goes, I'm living on that. So the interest she wanted to go into her bank account every month, which they set up, and she's going to get a 1099. She goes, oh, I've been living on annuity interest for all my life. She's older, she's retired, and that's what she does. So you can have liquidity, you can have the interest sent to you, or you can keep it and not let the IRS touch it at all. So those are some items that to keep in mind as you enter or you're in retirement. I don't have any more. I have some cards over there. If anyone has any personal things that they would like to talk about, just put your name and phone number on the card. Again, my name is Dan Fabrizio. I'm with New York Life, and the little white cards are on the end there. Does anyone have any questions? Back row.
Is a fixed deferred annuity an asset you could then leave to somebody, or what's
Yes.
your?
Good question. As Ken mentioned, 401k or a retirement account, 403b, any kind of retirement account, including an IRA, and life insurance, and annuities, have beneficiaries. They bypass the probate system, okay? So if you should pass away, your beneficiary gets that automatically. I think they just have to provide a copy of the death certificate. Any other questions? I'd like to be more questions.
The annuity, you can keep rolling it over?
You can roll
Every 3
annuity
years,
over
so
for as
you got
long
3
as you
years.
want. The smallest one we have right now is a 3-year. It can go up to 8 years, but even after 8 years, it stays tax deferred because it's still in an annuity. And you can put that into another 8-year
So
annuity.
once that 3 years is up, am I paying taxes on the money I made interest
No,
or? I
as
just
long as
roll
it stays in the annuity. If you say, give me all my money back, then yes, we're gonna give you your money and you're gonna get a 1099 for the interest you earn. But you can roll it into other annuities. And there's different style of annuities out there. And unlike Susie Orman, why she doesn't like annuities is because some annuities have fees. And there are many annuities out there. Insurance companies, that's what they have, annuities. I specifically work with the annuities that don't have fees, all right? And I work with people mostly age 50 and over, and helping them structure things so they can have some security, they can have an income stream, and not get, not be ripped off by fees and all that. Fees are not good. I don't like to work with annuities that have fees. It's a turnoff. Even for me to work with it, it's not good. But they do exist for certain reasons. If you're 30 years old and just starting and you're a plumber and you're making a ton of money and you want to start some kind of retirement account, a variable annuity is the way to go, okay? And it does have a fee. But if you're gonna be a plumber for the next 30 years, you just stick money into it every so often, it's like a 401k, without having to go through a brokerage house or something like that. Okay, and again, whatever it earns as it builds up over time is gonna remain tax deferred, just like a 401k would be. Okay? I don't know any will questions, but I know Ken had to run out. He had last minute court set up. If anyone has any more questions.
You have one.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
If you have to pay the taxes, my question is, suppose you had it in there for 10 years, when you get it out, do you have to pay 10 years of taxes? Or just the
You only
for that
pay
year?
taxes on the interest you earn. For example, if you put $100,000 into a fixed deferred annuity, and you kept it there for a bunch of years, and say it earned $25,000 in interest, and it could be 25, 30 years later, you're only gonna get a 1099 on the interest portion, not your original investment, okay? But some people just like this, it's nice to be able to set someone up with an income stream of just interest income. And people don't realize, by 4.5%, 5%, that's some nice money, instead of just sitting in your bank account. And by the way, your money market, your bank accounts, you're really not doing that well. You're getting maybe 1%, okay? So when you're older and some people sold some assets, they have 400,000 or 500,000 sitting in the bank, we're getting 1.3%, okay? Get your money to work for you. You can put it into annuity and it can get an income. You can get your interest, just like the older lady I worked with. And at the end of the 3 years, here's your lump of money back if you want. It's making your money work for you. Okay, you've earned it. You deserve it. Another question? Go ahead.
I have two quick questions.
You got to speak up. I'm sorry.
Are they FDIC insured? And
No.
also, the other question is, what do you think about Roth IRAs?
Two questions. One, is it FDIC insured? No. This is why the insurance company should be AAA rated, okay? AAA plus. The insurance companies is based on their financial strength, okay? And like they're rated by Moody's and Reuters and all those, okay? You want a company that's not B minus, A minus or something like that. You want someone that's double or triple A rated, okay? That shows that they have the financial strength, they have the financial reserves set aside. So when you know a company's been around for 178 years and they gave dividends out for 168 of those years, that's a good sign of a strong company. New York Life, every year they add into their reserve, they have $32 billion reserve. They've never touched it. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, they made a $3 billion profit that year. The US Treasury went to the head office in New York City and said, how are you doing this? And why do we have to, what did AIG and what did all the other insurance companies we bailed out, what did they do wrong? And what are you doing to make this money? And they just follow a very conservative process it's shown its proof through good times and bad times, financial times that is, okay? So it's based on the insurance company. And a Roth IRA is a great idea. A Roth IRA is nothing more than a 401k, but you're putting it after taxes, okay? So you get your paycheck, government takes their taxes, and you're writing a check into a Roth. You're limited to about $7,000 a year in contributions. You're limited to what you can put into it. There are other life insurance products out there that act like a Roth IRA also, but you're not limited to $7,000. And there's a lot of people who are making a lot of money, doctors, lawyers, that are all over that. Okay, it's called a cash value life insurance policy. They already have a regular life insurance policy, but they're funding a cash value life insurance policy, which is just structured to build tax-free money for retirement, okay? And I'm talking, these things are worth over $1 or $2 million. They fund it, they got the money, they're funding it maybe $10,000 a year, $15,000 a year into this thing for about 10 years. And then it just grows. And then when they retire, they take the cash value out, and then they take a loan again for death benefit, and that's all tax-free income. And they combine that with their regular tax income, okay? So, but that is a good idea. Thank you for asking that question. You have another question? Go ahead.
I do have a question based on what you just said about the cash value, life insurance policy.
Sure.
And you were saying they actually fund the life insurance policy. So just to get a better understanding of what you just said there. So you take out the cash value life insurance policy. Do you take it out for a certain amount of money, or do you put money into the policy?
Well, when you're funding it, you're the owner and the insured on the policy. Again, you're structuring this just to be a retirement account,
Right.
but it's under the life insurance umbrella, so it's all gonna be tax-free, okay, like a death benefit. All the beneficiaries on a life insurance, whoever gets the check is a tax-free check, just so everyone knows. So that's why they created this. The wealthy people are funding it, maybe $10,000 a year, 10 years, 15 years, and then they're done funding it. Now, this big pot of money builds up over time. You can either put that cash, some of it into the market to go up with the market, much like a 401k, or you can just follow the normal outside of the market.
Okay.
And then when they're ready to retire, a policy such as that, a whole life policy, cash value life insurance policy, it has a cash value aspect of it, and it has a death benefit for it, okay? One is built into the other, okay? The cash value is kind of like the foundation of it, and then there's the death benefit for it on top of it. When people retire, they'll say, all right, give me $10,000 a month. So they'll say, okay, well, I'll pull out of the cash value. And when the cash value goes to zero, they can take a loan against the death benefit, right? Which is really never gonna be paid back.
Right.
Okay, because it's really never, they already have some kind of life insurance policy elsewhere for that,
Yeah.
your asset. And that's how it works, okay? So I've had a couple lawyers that put those things together for themselves. Yes, ma'am?
Question, yeah, you were talking about the savings accounts. I think you said something about no, interest rate is low on the savings accounts.
The bank interest, the normal bank savings accounts are kind of low.
Right, but what about the high yield savings accounts like online? Like American Express has one.
I'm a little leery about the online banks. They can disappear overnight. Everything's electronic, right? You have some security breaches. You can do with that. There are some that might have a good name to it. I mean, Goldman Sachs has one. Barclays has one. And those are good reputable banks. But they might be limited also.
American Express has one.
American Express has one. I have no opinion on the online banking. I don't use it, probably. Yes,
If you want to set up a fixed deferred annuity, is there a minimum amount of money you have to set aside?
I believe it's 10,000 to start. 10,000 to start, and the sky's the limit. I've had people, put $1,000.
Or you can add to that, like, as a $2,000, could I add money into that?
No, fixed deferred annuities are one-time contracts, so all the money needs to be there once.
Oh.
But if you start off at 10,000, like that person that gets
Project.
20,000,
You
they
can
go,
project
well,
out.
I'll give you 20,000 now, and every 6 months, I give you another 20,000.
We can't
So it's
hear
another
you.
annuity. I apologize. The question was, what is the minimum to open a fixed deferred annuity? And it's $10,000. And you cannot add to that particular annuity contract 6 months later, a year later. You can open another one. You can have multiple annuities, okay, in chunks. So, but the minimum is $10,000 to open a fixed deferred annuity. Okay, and the more money you have into it, the higher rate you will get, okay? So it's almost an incentive to maybe save up a little bit and then maybe come get a better rate, okay? But the rates are very fluid right now. They were going up in October, November, and they leveled off. They came down a little bit in December, and they've been holding right now in January. Okay, and a lot has to do with the 10-year bond, the 2-year bond, treasury bonds, and things like that. They kind of guide the annuity and interest rates. Any more questions? Yes, back there.
What is the process for probating something like a 401k or a cash annuity? Like,
There's no probate for
It doesn't
assets.
have to be probated, he gave one.
There's no probate for an item that has a beneficiary. You may need a copy of the death certificate and present that, and you would be given a check or an income stream based on that.
So it's very common. I was talking to someone today. I goes, were there any assets that were just in dad's name? The guy goes, no. He goes, well, but his car. I go, well, didn't he sign the car over to mom like 2 weeks before he passed away? And his son goes, oh yes, I remember him doing that.
Yes.
Now, because there's no harm, no foul. You're not really screwing the government out of money. There's no taxes, so you're trying to make it easy.
Correct.
No.
And the beneficiary, keep in mind, you can change that anytime you want and as many times as you want. I know with my company, whether you have an annuity or some kind of product, even life insurance, for a beneficiary, there's an online account so you can look at it. And you can change your banking instructions, or you can change your beneficiaries, or your address, your email. You can get a paper statement, or you can get an online statement.
Yeah, if you're changing the beneficiary, get it in writing, and it could be good through an email. You have the printout. Don't assume that when you talk to the person over the phone, too many people say, Mr. M calls us up and he goes, I'm changing the will again. We're taking the grandsons out. They have nothing to do with me, and they didn't go to their grandmother's funeral. Okay, we do in the will, sign, boom. He doesn't change his 401k, and it goes to these bum grandkids that live the next town over, the ones who deserved it the least. You know?
Yeah, but any beneficiary chain is a document that you will sign online. Okay, might be digital. Yes.
Similar question, but what's the probate process and time frame for inherited property?
Inherited property.
It depends how fast you work and your attorney works. It depends upon whether or not there's no timeline under the statute, because it really depends upon if everything's going to children, then there's no inheritance tax. Children, stepchildren, spouse. So you still need to file the inheritance tax return. We file it. We tell people, listen, I can fill it out with a crayon and mail it in and leave half the stuff blank, but we want to get online, and then we can amend it, and then we get what these things called tax waivers. If there's taxes that are due because it's going to other type beneficiaries like cousins or people outside the family, then Trenton takes 13 months. There's nothing magic you can do to make it go any faster. So, but same thing, I tell people, the sooner you have us file the inheritance tax return, the sooner we're online. So if you're going to the amusement park with the grandkids, you've got to get there earlier so you can get online for the good rides, rather than late. And there's no speed pass with the Trenton Division of Taxation.
But I will share with you my experience. I inherited a house when my mom passed away. I think they probated the will around December, January, and by May, I actually had a deed in my hand. Okay, so it between the attorneys going to the county offices to file the papers and doing what they have to do legalese-wise, it can take anywhere between 2 to 6 months if everything is smooth. And it was very smooth going forward. It was just delays because of processing. Yes.
So what happens if your name is put on, so for example, I'm an only child, so my mother wants to put my name on the deed, does that speed up the process or no?
That's a good question. I'll answer.
So if your mom, there's pros, it speeds up the process, because if mom passes, then you get it. Depends if it's 50-50 or if it's just payable upon death. But you gotta be careful for what another Mr. M did. He goes, you know what? I'm just gonna give half of my money to my son, half to my daughter. I'm gonna have a new deed done, half to my son, half to my daughter. This way, if I go 5 years and I'm going into a nursing home, I'm avoiding Medicaid. Okay, that was, in his head, that was a good plan. Unfortunately, his son dies. So now who owns half of everything he ever had and half of his house? His ex-daughter-in-law. I mean, it's still a daughter-in-law by law, but it's his daughter-in-law. And, she could have said, hey, old man, get out of the house. I'm selling it. I mean, You know, and I represented the lady, and it's all being, so, we did the right thing. You know, because I represent the daughter-in-law, like I say, let's put away some money for the guy to help him out. But anyway, you know, the other side want us to just transfer everything back. It goes, if you do that, your kids will never see a penny of that. So we worked that out.
I have a.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you, Ken. When it comes to a will or trust, and let's say you're in the second marriage, right? So you got a husband, you got a wife, they're both the second marriages, you have a kid, she has a kid. Now, you want to make sure that if anything happens to the wife, hypothetically, then as far as the home and stuff like that, it belongs to the husband, right? But then if anything happens to the husband, how do you set it so that each, the children from the two?
So here's an example of second marriage situations, okay? People come into our office, they goes, everything's great, I'm leaving everything, we're leaving everything to each other. Then after that, it's getting divided, half to her side, half to the husband's side. I go, that's a terrible idea. They goes, why? He goes, well, you understand the day after you die, the other side can have a new will and say, screw them, they're not getting anything. What we could do is instead have, instead of having everything joint, one spouse owns some, one spouse owns the other, and upon death, it gets into what's called a testamentary trust within the will. It's a trust within the will. It's not owned by them. That's protected from Medicaid. And upon that second spouse's death, it gets divided the way you put it within the will.
Okay.
And that's a little bit more complicated than basic will, but again, that's the easy way to do it.
To make sure that all the children get part of the
They get
assets.
some.
Prior marriages, yes. Question in the back there.
How do you get rid of timeshares?
That's the next seminar. Question.
So what happens when there's no will, there's no documentation at all, there's no trust? Say for example, a mother passes away, she has 3 kids. The oldest.
You were here earlier, you weren't writing really fast. No, okay, so this was the man I met with 4 hours ago. Okay, but it was a situation where we did a will, the mom never signed it. It sat in the drawer and she never got around to doing it, you know, so I go, that means it's what's called intestate. I go, so the guy who's in my office goes, well, the other people signed this thing called a renunciation that says you can be the administrator of the estate. And he goes, yeah, my brother will do it. I goes, who else we got? He goes, well, my sister passed, so it's like her 2 kids. As long as they both do it, you're going through, they sign a renunciation and there's papers to fill it at the surrogate's office. The person has to be bonded. If someone says, no, screw you, I'm not gonna sign it, then either nothing happens or someone spends the money and files a complaint in order to show cause to ask that they be appointed as the administrator. There's no magic government entity that comes forward to say, we're gonna do it if the family doesn't do it. There is though, except if there's a creditor or mortgage company, the mortgage company have to wait a certain number of months can say, okay, listen, we want to go be appointed as the administrator of this estate so we can order get the house sold and get paid back. So we'd have to go through a foreclosure. But the whole thing is, try to have a will.
Right, but I guess the question was leaning more towards say for example, the oldest daughter, there's 3 kids. The oldest daughter is the one handling everything because mom passed away. Oldest daughter
But is there a will?
No, there's no will, there's no documents.
Well,
She's appointing herself to do that. but
Nobody can do anything legally unless they get the magic papers from the county survey. There's stuff you can do on cleaning the house and tossing stuff out, but you have no legal right to sell a house. Even if there's a will, by the way, you have no legal right to do anything until you get the magic papers from the county survey. So when there's a will, it's called letters testamentary. When there's no will, it's called letters of administration. You know, so, and a bank is not just gonna give up the money and goes, okay, I'm the next of kin, give me the money. They're gonna say, okay, you need something from the county circuit. Would someone lie to the county circuit, commit crime, and lie and say there's no other kids? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you know, people lie, people commit crimes, but then, you know, the family can call the county prosecutor, and the person gets prosecuted and removed. Okay, we got time for 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
If my father passes away and I'm getting everything, am I allowed to deny whatever I want?
What do you mean deny?
Let's say I don't want his house.
Well, you mean give it to someone else?
No, I don't want it at all. I don't give a shit what happens.
Well, if there's debts on it,
There's no debts on
if
it.
there's no debts on it, then you can just, if you don't do anything, then eventually it gets sold by the state.
What happens to
I
the
don't
liens
have
go
to
on?
file a renunciation
I'd
document.
say, well, that's,
Because I want all his money. I don't
Yeah.
want the house.
yeah, I'd say, so the housing, I always ask people, I asked one guy was the executor of his father's estate. And he comes to see me, of course, there's a complaint against him in the municipal court because the jungle of weeds and whatever. And I go to the guy, Paul, why don't you just list the house for sale? I go to him, are you independently wealthy? He goes, no. I go, listen, just call a realtor, say, listen, list it, I'm not doing anything, they're taking it with the weeds, the bugs, whatever, and I just want you to, give me a check. You know,
That's the best way to do it.
you can't renounce,
That's not it.
but you can't really renounce against a particular asset because, if there's gonna be, you know, when the state comes, then the state's gonna bring a suit against the state of New Jersey or the town would bring this. So the better thing to do is just sell to someone for $1 and be done.
Let me rephrase it. That's a timeshare. I don't want it.
Oh, that's different. You said, okay, now, okay, yeah, because they ain't worth anything. Okay, so 2 things with the timeshare.
Commercial,
right?
your own time.
Yeah, with the timeshare. And what state is it in? Well, my first thing is I don't know. My second thing though is, here's what someone did with the timeshare. They did nothing. They took the money, right? And they said, the timeshare company goes, state's closed, go take your timeshare back. What the easier thing sometimes is to contact the company and say, listen, we'll just sign a quick claim deed. You can have it back and you can make money selling it to some other sucker. Timeshare is different from girls. I mean, Florida's, I can't answer all of Florida.
If it's left to you in a will, I don't
No,
understand why I have to take it.
Well, again, so that's if you do nothing, I can't tell, because here's the funny thing. Is it a New Jersey estate or Florida estate?
It's Florida estate.
You gotta talk to the Florida person. I can tell you, New Jersey, we say, screw you, we're not gonna pay. We're still being recorded, they take us off. I know what someone did with the timeshare. They put a quick claim deed to transfer it back to the dead guy and said, that way they're not responsible. You know, but you gotta really ask for Florida. I can tell you about New Jersey law. I used to be able to tell you about New York law. I promised my wife in 2000, fall of 2000, I would, because her father had a condo in Florida, and it was not smart for not having a trust. I'll take the Florida bar in 20 years, and I had the actual paperwork. And then 20 years went by, and I hope she forgets about that part. Because I don't want to have to do any more bars.
Probate in Florida is very difficult, that's why.
That's what you want to have. In Florida, you want to have stuff by a trust, and you want to try to dump the timeshare, because I have arguments with people. Your kids don't want your timeshare. Oh, they love going on trips. Yeah, because you paid for everything. You bought them food, you took them out, they go, sir, happy to see you, you're happy to see them, et cetera. I'd say it's gonna cause more problems because you dumped the timeshare, so, okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Question and a half.
Can you transfer a variable annuity to a fixed annuity?
No, you can't transfer a variable annuity into a fixed annuity. The annuity has to be, well, let me go back a second. You can, but you don't want to do it while it's in surrender. What surrender means is an annuity has a time period. And for example, variable annuity may have a time period, a surrender period of 7 years. And that means that's a penalty. In other words, you just open the contract, you don't want to break the contract within 7 years, otherwise there's a penalty. Penalty could be like 7%, 6%, 5%, and it gets small. Once it's out of the surrender period, yes, you can transfer that into another annuity, and it could be a fixed deferred annuity, or it could be another variable annuity, or it can be an income annuity. Okay, but when you come out of surrender is only when you can do that.
Okay, everyone, if you want to consult, write your name, your email, phone number, we'll contact you. If anyone else has any other questions, they gotta walk all the way to the front.
And if anyone has any more finance questions, and maybe some things are personal